Welcome to Mental Health Matters. I'm your host, Chris Garrett. We're glad to have you here to join us for our first edition of Mental Health Matters, being brought to you by the Center for Life Management in partnership with the folks here at Dairy Community Access Media. For our first segment today, we welcome Vic Topo, President and CEO of the Center for Life Management. Later on in the show, we'll have two members of CLM's Child and Adolescent Program join us to provide information about the effects of social media and cell phone use on kids and youth, as well as offer some safety tips for keeping children safe in today's 24/7 digital world. Vic, welcome to the show. I'm sure many folks here in the community are familiar with the Center for Life Management, and it's fitting that you're doing the first segment in the first program. But those that don't know about what CLM is, can you tell us a little bit about CLM?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. To sort of start with, the mission of the Center for Life Management is to promote mental health and well-being for individuals, families, and organizations in our community. We do a whole wide variety of things. I'll just give a quick overview of the Center for Life Management. We employ 220 people approximately. We have revenues of right around $15 million, and we serve about 5,000 people each year. We've been in existence for a little over 50 years. We celebrated our 50th anniversary just recently, and obviously we've been providing tremendous amount of service for that long of a period of time. One of the things that's been happening at the Center for Life Management that we're really excited about is not just to have promoting mental health, but also promoting health overall. That's kind of our vision for the future, is to recognize that we don't want to just focus on people's mental health, but we want to recognize there's a link between physical health and mental health. And so one of the things that we're doing, we call it Whole Health, is to put together programs and services that fit in with trying to recognize and help people with their overall health.
There's so many different things you do, and so many different people you help, whether it's children or seniors. I mean, there's just a number of different programs that you guys touch in the community.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's been important for us is to start with is that there's about 46 million people across the nation, just to give you a sense of the national landscape. About 46 million people in a given year actually have a mental illness. And the number of people that actually get treatment is much less than that, in maybe 30 some odd million or so. 35, 36 million. So there's a big disparity between how many people there actually have mental illness, and some may not even know they have it, and then the people who are actually getting treatment. So part of the reason why we want to do the program, why it's so important to us, is to make sure that our community, the viewers that are listening to this, get a better sense of what it is that they need to know about mental health, and try to, in whatever way they can, seek out treatment if they're having symptoms or having some difficulties with. And all of us have the challenges in everyday life.
And you talked about the fact that there are people self-diagnosed or otherwise. There are a lot of people out there that don't know or might know they have it. How do they go about trying to find out, do I have it, and how do I get tested?
Right. Well, again, I think the main thing is for people to realize that if they're having difficulty coping every day, they're struggling, whether it's either mood or their thoughts and so forth, is to contact someone that can help them, like the Center for Life Management, certainly. We are part of a big system of care, not just here in this region, which is the Greater Salem, Greater Dairy, and Greater Plastow region. We're the largest provider, by the way, of services in our region for behavioral health. But beyond us, there's so many other constellation of different type of clinicians and providers out there that can help a person. And the main thing is for people to get just a basic understanding to start with about mental health and symptoms and so forth. And obviously there's a lot of information online about it. But then the next step would be, which is the most crucial one, which is to not only think that maybe you have a problem, but maybe to actually call an organization. It could be a mental health center, it could be an addiction organization as it relates to maybe a substance use disorder, or it could just be a therapist, a private therapist that's out there, and there are hundreds of them all over the state that people can contact to see if they can get an appointment. It may be difficult to get an appointment right away, but it shouldn't be a barrier, and it shouldn't dissuade people from contacting someone by all means, because again, these are very treatable conditions. That's one of the things we've learned over the last several years, is that not unlike physical illnesses, mental illnesses are very treatable conditions. We have many different types of treatments for these conditions and so forth.
You know, on a personal level, I've seen it because I've just been amazed how many younger children or younger kids and young adults seem to be getting anxiety and depression more than I've ever. And I'm not sure if it's because we're now finding out more, we're treating it more, and maybe it was there before, but it just seems like it's just a lot more than you ever thought there was.
More than any other time before, especially on college campuses, anxiety and depression are the highest ones that we're learning about more and more now. So for whatever reasons, it is happening in a way that we've seen. It kind of, in some areas, pretty unprecedented numbers we're seeing. When we start talking about suicide, which, by the way, is part of the reason why we're doing this show, whether it's stigma, whether it's suicide, whether it's addiction, these are all words, key words, and things that are going on in our society that we need to really be open and honest about these things. We're long past those days when we don't talk about these things. We have to be open and so forth. So for example, when we talk about young people, that we've seen a 50% increase in the number of teens who've actually completed suicide, which is astounding, really, when we look back at the statistics over the last several years. So young people, middle-aged people, many people are dealing with a lot of struggles. We want to try to be able to help them through this program is one of the ways that we can do it.
I think maybe part of it is it was kind of like that hidden secret, a dirty little secret in the closet. Well, not my son or not my kid can't have that, or you don't want to recognize it. Maybe he needs a little help, and that's what you guys are all about.
Absolutely, we are, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to resurrect the show, because it is something that we need to kind of openly talk about, and nobody has it totally figured out. There's a lot of mysteries to why these conditions exist, why we have a higher suicide rate. A lot of factors play into it, but we have lots of different kinds of services that can help people. And every single day, we have such an awesome team. We have, I mentioned how many people work at the Center for Life Management, directly or indirectly. Every single one of our employees is really crucial to our mission. And every single one of those employees that we employ are really dedicated and really compassionate, caring people that really want to make a difference in people's lives. And so we have lots of different kinds of ways we can intervene in a person's life. But again, that first step is so critical, is contacting someone, making that phone call, sending that message, that email, and so forth.
And it's nice to know that there's a place like CLM where people say, okay, this is approachable. I feel like I can go, it's kept secret that way, or it's not like you're going to be broadcasting it all out there. It's like I'm going to get the help that I need.
Absolutely.
And you have the team and the tools to
we
take
do,
care of
and
that.
you brought up something. Confidentiality is really precious to us. It's something that we've all learned, those of us who've been in the field a long time, and new incoming employees and service providers learn that fundamentally that's such a basic, essential element of providing service and care to people. We provide medication services, we provide counseling services, we provide outreach services, so we go out into the community. Sometimes we find ourselves interfacing with the jails and the correctional system for people who are incarcerated that have mental illness. So we work in a number of different areas. And again, we do great work with housing, by the way. I don't want to leave out our housing services as well. We serve homeless people and people who need assistance with getting an apartment. Again, these are people who have had some type of mental health challenge.
And we talk about the mental health. And I was doing some cheating on the website, but I know you probably want to talk about this, but I saw that this is rolling out, I think, in a couple of months, but the TMS treatment
Absolutely.
looks like it's a real exciting new technology.
It is. It's phenomenal, actually. And we've got all kinds of new solutions that are coming up through the pipeline, so to speak. The transcranial magnetic stimulation is one of the newer treatments that we have. It's a non-invasive MRI strength magnetic solution that we have that the pulses that are administered to the person in the prefrontal cortex of the brain to assist people with who are experiencing major depressive disorder. Mm-hmm. And our transcranial magnetic stimulation device actually was the first one for a community mental health center like the Center for Life Management. The first one that was installed in the country was actually right here in Derry, New Hampshire. Wow. And we currently have that service in the process of coming up again, getting started again next month down in our Salem office, which, by the way, we have two locations. We have a Salem office and a Derry office. But our TMS service, we've adopted telepsychiatry as one of those other key initiatives that you're asking about. We're in the process. Telehealth and telepsychiatry are really taking off. Telemedicine is taking off, so it's not just in the psychiatric field, but again, through the use of technology, we're able to reach people using technology in a way that we were never able to do before.
And that's exciting. I know that one's rolling out soon. But the other thing is you help so many different people, and so many, whether it's seniors that need help, mm-hmm. whether it's, say there's a divorce going on, and a child is affected by that. You have people that can go into the family or into the homes and treat people that way.
Yes.
So it's outreach. It's a comprehensive program here.
It is. It's a range of services. We have kids as young as 5 and 6 years old that are in our children's department, which our children's department is going to be speaking to the work that they do in a later segment. We serve older people as well, not as many seniors perhaps as maybe out there that need, but again, we do what we can to try to, with the limited amount of resources that we have, we try to reach as many different types of people as possible.
And I mean, you say the pharmacy service, you have Reiki. I mean, so there really is almost, I looked at it, it's almost like no stone uncovered in terms of where you guys outreach and where you touch or potentially could help people in the community.
We absolutely do, and I shouldn't leave our contract that we have, which is to partner with other organizations, kind of part of our mission statement also. We have a 24/7 contract with Parkland Medical Center. We see almost 2,000 people in crisis in the hospital at Parkland Medical Center as part of an arrangement we've had with them for many, many years. So again, we see people who are doing well, who are in recovery. They've been in recovery for a long time. We have clients that we've had over 30 years at the organization. And then we have people who are brand new coming in who are in crisis. And we're seeing them for the first time, maybe over at the hospital, try to get them the help that they need. In some cases, that involves them being admitted to a hospital.
Hi, we're talking with Vic Topo, President and CEO of Center for Life Management. We're here bringing our first program of, yes, Mental Health Matters. And we're going to be right back after this break. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. Now we'd like to welcome to the show 2 members of CLM's Child and Adolescent Program. Brian Piccolo is a child and adolescent clinician, and Brittany Stringfellow is a Children's Act Community Case Manager. So Brian, tell me a little bit about how long you've been with the agency and what exactly you do with CLM.
Sure. I've been at CLM for 13 years this September, and what I do is individual psychotherapy. I'm a child and adolescent clinician, so I work with a lot of kids and adolescents who have depression, anxiety, and substance abuse.
Okay, and then Brittany, what do you do and how long have you been with CLM?
I've been with CLM for about 11 years in November, and I am a community case manager. So that means I coordinate between schools, homes, pretty much anywhere in the community, as well as provide individual services for families and youth.
Well, we know the topic we want to talk about here today. We're in the digital world 24/7. Social media has certainly become a big part of most of our lives, and that includes the kids too. So what are some of the good things about social media that you think helps kids and teens at this point?
Well, we've seen a lot of kids actually build friendships through social media. So we don't want everybody to think that social media is always negative. So we've seen kids build friendships, networking, decreasing loneliness, YouTube channels. A lot of our kids have their own YouTube channels with video game play, and they get a lot of followers. So it builds a lot of their confidence. So yeah.
And I see a lot of self-esteem increase.
Right.
People feel good about themselves by just having one person like their picture.
Right. Well, what about some of the negatives and the drawbacks? Because obviously some kids can get too immersed in or too connected to the internet or too connected to social media.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different options that kids have nowadays, so especially Snapchat. The problem with that is once you post something, everybody can see it momentarily. People can take screenshots. If it's really inappropriate, it could lead to some negative consequences. Instagram could also be a positive, but again, it depends on what you post. Facebook, we don't see a lot of teens using it as much, a lot of instant messenger, but there's a lot of arguing that takes place at times. Kids kind of go overboard. We've had kids make threats to one another and get into trouble at school or with the police. So sometimes it can lead to cyberbullying. So what we see as a result is a lot of depression, anxiety, and in extreme cases, sometimes suicidal ideation. Yeah.
And on the side note, to piggyback on to what Brian said, I see a lot of aggression because of the depression factor, and they don't know how to verbally communicate that very well at times, or they don't really want to.
And the other thing is, with the social media aspect and what goes with that is the fact that a lot of them have cell phones, and that means they're connected to social media pretty much 24/7. That can be a plus and also a negative as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We see a lot of that as an issue at school. So a lot of kids have a hard time learning, focusing in class. A lot of teachers, I've heard, have to constantly, redirect the kids to get back on track in the school. So a lot of kids, their grades go down. And I'm talking if they're using, more than 3 hours a day. I mean, it become a problem. They say that if you use social media more than 10 hours a day, it can increase your depression by 56%. So that's something to think about. So again, like in minimal cases, you know, it can be a healthy thing, but if you use it all the time, it affects your learning. We see a lot of kids having a hard time with their social skills, communicating with their parents and friends, misreading comments on the phone, so they have a hard time regulating their emotions and understanding emotions.
I mean, it just across the board, it impacts them being overtired, can't
Right.
wake up to school. Just overuse of the cell phone is just not healthy.
No. For anybody, adults too.
anyone.
Yeah,
obviously,
we all
right?
do. A lot of us do it too. Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to say, do what I say, not what I do.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
sometimes, but
Yeah, we're all guilty of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and the other point is, okay, so, and I have some funny stories about when my kids, my son actually petitioned and wrote, I said, give me a reason why you should have a cell phone, you know, at age 11, I think it was at that
Yeah.
point. And he literally went out and did the research and gave me like a 5-page dissertation on why, which he did the homework, but the point is, what do you think is there a general age you think is okay to have a cell phone, or is this an age that's too early? What do you guys think about that?
Well, the general age that they say is a healthy time to learn how to appropriately use is between the ages of 10 to 13. We do see an influx right now of teens, well, not teens, excuse me, younger age youth below the age of 10 overusing electronics and increasing their agitation within the home and actually more violent. So it is a problem across the board right now.
Now, parents obviously, kids on social media, are there certain warning signs or tips that you guys know we should be looking for, or people should be looking for, parents and kids, that they may be acting out differently, or what warning signs there might be?
Sure. If you see kids starting to withdraw from previous activities, such as they used to be into sports, or they used to socialize with their friends a lot, if you see the more withdrawn behavior, that can be a concern. If parents are setting limits on their kids to get off the electronics, as Brittany was saying, they can become more irritable or aggressive. Just a general, you know, isolation. If you see a lot more disinterest in engaging with other people, that could be also a big sign. So,
And what I see in the home is I see them go flat. You can almost see right through them. They're totally withdrawn, and they could be sitting in the same room, even right in your chair, and they're not
Looking
there.
right through you.
They're
Yeah,
exactly, they're not there.
Now, Brittany, since you do a lot of so you actually go out into the field with the families and the children in the home. I mean, that's an incredible outreach
And
to make it
it's
easy and
difficult.
accessible.
Right, and it is difficult because the parents sometimes have just as much of an issue with it
If we-
as the
or
kids.
more in some
or
cases,
more,
right?
exactly. So that can present additional problems. So we're trying to educate not only the youth that we're working with to improve their behaviors related to cell phone use, but also modeling for the parents as well.
And Brian, you do more of the one-on-one type counseling. Oh, I know you do family as well, but right?
Yeah.
You do okay.
a little bit of family, yeah, mostly individual. So a lot of my role is when I see kids coming in who have a lot of anxiety, depression about being bullied online or with their peers, I help them kind of navigate through those issues and how to problem solve and also how to use responsibly. Brittany does a great job in the community of, like she said, modeling those behaviors for kids and parents. But I usually deal with the kids who have a lot of like depression, anger, and you know, in extreme cases, like I was saying before, if there's some suicidal ideation, we want to make sure that they're safe and, you know, obviously navigate them to the appropriate intervention as needed.
So if a parent is watching now and has a child that might be exhibiting some of these symptoms, what's the best route to, because I have an older child that, you know, to get him to go to the doctor or do a lot of these things or admit that there might be a problem, very difficult to do. And at that age, you know, they think they know everything. So what would you tell parents the best way to approach that?
Well, typically, because I'm in the home, I tell them to minimize the use. It's okay to set appropriate boundaries. It's not okay to be on, you know, the game system. It's not appropriate to be on the phone when you're home all night because then you can't get homework done. School grades get lower. So it's appropriate to set those boundaries, and it's okay to be the bad guy every once in a while. That's part of your job as a parent. And I think you're doing a good job by being that bad guy.
Right, and you know, you always say that the thing is, you're not their friend, you're their parent. I mean, so it's okay. Discipline is good. I mean, they have that little structure in that. So.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you see, do you see the same thing, obviously?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Parents have a hard time, you know, setting boundaries with their kids, which, you know, they want to have that balance of being their friend and their parent. So Brittany's right. I mean, it's okay to set those limits at times, and it's okay. They need that structure, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, and again, so social media is something we have to be aware of.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different forms. And I felt like, I think you're right when you alluded to the fact that Facebook doesn't seem to be the one anymore. It's more like the Snapchat, the Instagram type thing.
Yeah.
But they still have to be very careful about what's out there, and also letting people know, kids know, like on Facebook, that stuff, it's out there.
Absolutely.
You know, it can follow you around for like years to come if you don't, you know, so you have to be very careful and sensitive. And I don't know if they always are aware of that,
Right.
the fact that it's going to be forever sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they face a sense of immortality, that nothing can happen to them because of it's on the internet or it's on the game system. Nothing can ever happen. That's not true. There's plenty of dangers across the board that can affect their life long term.
And what are some of the biggest challenges you face in the field?
The biggest challenge is actually screen time. It's actually telling them that their electronics is not theirs. The parent is going to tell you, no, you're not supposed to be on it all the time. That's the biggest problem actually right now, is that parents are not willing to do that. They're
Right.
not willing to take it away for whatever reason, whether fear of their own child or it actually gives them some free time. That's part of the problem.
Okay. All right, well, listen, we've had a great time here today. This is our first Mental Health Matters, and it's been great to have Vic and you two guys as our first guests on this initial program. It's been awesome. Center for Life Management has locations in Derry and Salem. To contact the Center for Life Management, you can call 603-434-1577 or visit them online at www.centerforlifemanagement.org. Thank you for joining us for this premier edition of Mental Health Matters, and to DairyCam, Dairy Community Access Media, empowering independent voices. I'm Chris Garrett. For Brian and Brittany, we'll see you next time. Thanks.